All right. Good morning, Monday, YouTube. YouTube on a Monday. It's Monday, YouTube. Something like that. All right. Looks like we're live, folks. And thanks for joining us. Those of you that aren't snowed in, who thought we'd say that in the first Monday in April? I don't know if people are snowed in, but there's definitely snow coming down in copious amounts in certain locations. You can see the map there. They got the whole northern plains, Montana, Idaho, and then the East Coast there in the Northeast got some good snow yesterday and coming into today. No joke. No April Fools. I had to stay off social media and the internet yesterday just because half people were trying to be serious about the Resurrection Sunday and the other half were just messing around with April Fool's Day. Couldn't mess with that mess, if you know what I'm saying. So going along with that vein, let's check out who's in the side. If we got him on the side chat, yes, we do. Good morning, Mr. Tommy Boy. The Caravan of Immigrants. Yes, we need to touch in on that today. We need to look into that situation. It does look to be quite the situation, as it looks like a small army coming from the south. Well, let's people try to get some more people in here before we go into that. Mr. Tommy Boy. Good morning, Rusty. How you doing? Cold and rainy. Are you still in Kentucky there, M. Long? Yeah, 3 inches of snow in India. Yeah, exactly. It's going to hit touch next the video out of the Weather Channel here. This racist white snow, banned snow. Okay, Crom. Yeah, I don't know how you're getting this. You're getting dumped on up there too, right? Barry's got snow as well, right? Nice. It's a nice little spring day. Everybody's got snow. And I was like 75 in t-shirt yesterday working. So yeah, there's a layout right now. All this snow, I guess, is moving east, and that's going to be in this next little snippet. And, of course. Give that a minute to run through. Robert, I'm just going to say Robert. WM8, 3 a.m., I guess. Snow. You got snow as well where you are. Isn't that what everybody expects to do in April? So here's the Weather Service video from yesterday. This is in Nebraska. And they go into some of the future plans for the week here. That's what everybody wanted to do on April Fool's Day, right? Just waiting for another 25-car pileup. Coming through there, through Walter Davis's territory. Everybody having fun on their Monday morning, back to work. There you go, Crom. It might be leaving you, except all that stuff coming out of Canada is going to come down on you. Up to 5 inches up there for you, Crom. Looks like digging out up to a foot there in lake effects up in Michigan. Lots of fun for everybody. If you weren't tired of winter, you might be after this week. So that's the situation with your Monday weather. But to move on into something a little more significant, well, weather significant definitely can hinder your travel and workload. But this migration coming through Mexico that we've been talking about coming out of last week. Of course, we're going to take the PC feel good story out of CNN and see how we can approach this as they feel sorry for these poor souls walking through from Central America across Mexico. And this is the only time you'll probably ever have CNN say Holy Week as they make their way north to the U.S. border. You can just feel the feelings. It says here it's part activist march, part humanitarian mission. Really? Okay. I don't understand how that works, but okay. So primarily it's a humanitarian issue in their home countries, they're saying. It's because they're running away from crime and other issues. They don't name their, okay, a large number from Honduras. Come on, folks. So this is a large group of more than 1,000 people, according to organizers. So somebody is organizing this. But who's paying for their food and water? Are they just getting benevolence wherever they stop? And people are like, oh, feeding and getting fed and watered along the way. Political unrest, violence, poverty in their home countries, etc. So Honduras. It's terrible in Honduras, I guess. You don't hear about it until they all start leaving, I guess. That's when the CNN decided to pick up on it. Their plan is to request asylum when they make it to the border. So the big question, what happens when they reach the border? It says here that most likely though, they'll be taken into detention if they turn themselves in at a port of entry. And it could take years to have their case for asylum go through the courts in a backlog system. So Mexico is yelling at us. Okay, so what's Mexico say? Border Patrol official or a spokesman for the National Border Patrol Council, or he's the president actually, accused Mexican officials of helping the migrants get to the U.S. border and called for activists helping the migrants to face prosecution in the United States. So somebody is feeding and watering them. Instead of taking care of them where they can, they're just going to feed and water them until they get to the United States. It becomes somebody else's problem. Mexico's foreign minister says U.S. is all upset because we're saying that that Mexico's undermining our borders, which they've been doing for years. The Mexican foreign minister says we work together all the time in strong cooperation. About 1,300 Central Americans obtained permanent residence as refugees in Mexico last year. Mexico deported more than 76,000 Central Americans last year, according to their government statistics. More than 35,000 were returned to Guatemala. Man, I didn't know Mexico was so racist towards Guatemalans. Who knew? That's the end of that story. Is that really the end? That was kind of an odd way to end. What about U.S. stats on how many we deport and how many were returned to Guatemala? So interesting times, friends. Well, it's just a political agenda. They're going after U.S. immigration rules. Somebody's helping them cross Mexico with food and water. Yeah, somebody's trying to make a point about something. It's kind of hard to say what it is. But CNN wants you to make sure you feel sorry for them, though. And we got, you can do it back in the side chat. Well, actually, you can do it. They don't have buses. They're actually walking. Not like the spoiled kids in the U.S. They get buses, right? Yeah, the food and water is the issue. Where are they getting all that from? Good morning, Walter. Looks like you're getting some good snow. Complete scumbags, Walter. I guess that's a good way to describe Mexico. Their government, it's pretty much one gangster government in competition with the cartels. So we'll start off with that, folks. That was kind of the highlight of the week. The big thing on the Trump end is he's trying to push this DACA thing to deal with this, and now he's saying no more DACA deal. So what does that mean? I mean, it's anybody's guess, but maybe all bets are off now. No border funding, no DACA. Oh, what a surprise. We're stuck with this big $1.3 trillion budget and nothing to show for it. Remember, links will be in the description box below for most of the stuff we talk about here. Moving on. Talk about the trade wars over the last week or so. China announced its tariffs this morning, and what would usually be a slow market day, China is announcing its tariffs on 128 new products and tariffs at up to 25%. We talked briefly about some of these tariffs a couple of weeks ago. It's tariffs on meat, fruit, and other products in retaliation. As we are doing tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. So again, it's 25% on aluminum, scrap, and pork that China is imposing. It's also imposing a 15% on 120 other imported commodities, almonds, apples, and from almonds to apples and berries. So mostly food, fresh food stuffs, it looks like. 128 total different products. The estimated import value is 3.3 billion of these different things that are being tariffed. It doesn't look like it's really anything new. I guess they just kind of announced it. Just to give an example, U.S. farmers shipped nearly $20 billion in goods to China in 2017. The American pork industry sent $1.1 billion in products. It's the number 3 market for U.S. pork, China is. Where do we send more pork than China? I mean, Chinese eat a lot. Who else eats that much pork? India? I mean, it'd have to be a large country, right? Interesting. I figured that'd be number 1 exporter or the number one person that would take American pork, at least. So the trade war is in full swing. So getting into who actually can win the trade war. If China can tolerate a large price shock stemming from the lack of other sourcing countries, or if the domestic market can to some extent be a buffer, it may also extend its measures to a wider set of sectors, such as sub-products in paper, photographic films, and cereal, says this analyst here. So really trying to figure out who's got the best angle to win this whole thing, if you can say anybody wins it. So here's another quote. China has a 30-year plan to boost its industrial base. It has manufacturing targets for 2025. And in terms of U.S. exports, it can hardly include those if it wants to meet those targets. So if China's going to have issues exporting to the U.S., it's not going to make it its production targets, which obviously are a big economic concern there. And they're so that's the update on the trade wars. So look for something made of steel and aluminum to go up in price near you soon. But as we're saying, it might make for cheap pork here in the U.S. as they can't sell it over there. TrueBlitz.com. Good morning. It was an anecdotal story. Get over it. We cover all sources. You can do it. You eat more pork than China, right? That's a good attempt. I don't know if you can quite make it that far. China will go through third broker countries and pay more, you're saying, to export or to import? Do you have the pork defense around your home there, Walter? Or you're just blood in general, you figure? It might work. It's an interesting strategy. So going on things about China, their space station crashed to Earth this weekend, or yesterday, last night, I guess. There was some hypothesis it might hit somewhere over top of the northern United States. Michigan even activated its emergency management system to deal with a potential crash. But of course, being as Earth is mostly water, it crashed into the Pacific Ocean. So all alarm for no reason. But that crashed down. This is space.com. And I guess it actually broke apart and burned up in the skies over the southern Pacific. I guess it didn't even really fall to the ground. They say it burned up. And, oh, wait. Some pieces of the school bus size, so the whole thing is as big as a school bus. Some pieces almost certainly survived the fall, but the odds that they caused any damage or injury are extremely small, especially when you're over the ocean like that. It made for an interesting light show, I guess, if you could see it in the middle of the South Pacific. You had less than a 1 in a trillion chance of getting hit by a flaming chunk of the space station. So about the same as being involved in a school shooting. Your odds are very low. When was this thing? So this craft was launched in 2011. at an orbit slightly lower than the space station, International Space Station. And there's a whole long article after that about the whole thing. And here's when it was launched. And so it's in the description box if you want to look more up into the Chinese space station. Cool stuff overall. Let's see what else we got lined up here. So a couple more things. Anything else anybody's got out there? Put it in the side chat. So we were talking about withdrawing from Syria, and everybody got all upset. So this is at a zero hedge. People getting upset that Trump's Syria implications that we took the oil, we've got to keep the oil is a quote they quote here. I can't believe somebody would actually say that, but okay. So the hawkish overtones over some people who are upset at this move. So this is out of Reuters. They're quoting Reuters. Trump said, "Let other people take care of their own. Take care of it now. Very, very soon we're coming out. We're going to get back to our country where we belong, where we want to be." Indeed. Sounds like a good strategic and tactical move, if you ask me. But some people weren't happy with that. So editorials and cable news reacted in disbelief and horror with charges of chaos at the Trump White House over Syria policy, and claims that ISIS will come back. Well, of course, you got to bring them out. ISIS will come back if America leaves. Never mind the fact that Trump himself, while on the campaign trail in 2016, stated the U.S. support to jihadists in Syria under the previous administration is precisely what fueled the rise of ISIS in the first place. So CNN and the other mainstream are going full on neocon and trying to get Trump to stay involved in Syria and play that chaos is a muck in the White House, which I think that's a given considering all the firings that have went on. People getting replaced at the cyclic rate. So Zero Hedge goes on. It's funny and very telling how brazenly honest interventionist and deep state bureaucrats suddenly become in their motives whenever Trump speaks truth on Syria. Is Mule watching this? We're talking about potentially Trump doing something good, and he's not watching. So, prominent Washington Post columnist Josh Rogan, who the day after Trump's announcement of leaving Syria lamented while quoting a pro-regime change activist. "We took the oil, we've got to keep the oil," is the quote. So that quote comes from a Washington Post reporter who is probably also a SJW anti-gun, uh, you know, uh, organizing rules for radicals dude. Also declaring we have to go in intervention and take the oil. So I guess this is the tweet right here. his quote in this tweet is Trump doesn't seem to care about U.S. national security interest in Syria, which there are none. So somebody tell him by pulling out, he is giving Iran all the oil. Who knew? Short map of the graph of the oil and gas production in Syria and the different pipelines on the map there. So I gotta find this dude's article. Let's see if I can click over to that. Apparently his article says that directly. We took the oil, we have to keep it. I can't say that you can do it. This is a family show. I try to keep it clean. I could think of things far worse than that. So yeah, this is an opinion piece over in the Washington Post. We took the oil. Now Trump wants to give it to Iran. That is the quote. I didn't think we did. I thought, what happened to no blood for oil? I'm sure he was on that train a couple of years ago, right? I'm sure he was on that train. What did he say in Iraq? He probably has articles. If anybody wants to take the time and see what Josh Rogan wrote about intervention in Iraq and all the oil we were stealing from them, I'm sure he was of the negative opinion there. But here, we've took it now. Trump's given it away. Interesting perspective. Let me link this up. You guys can look into that. It is comical, the level of two-facedness that comes from some of these people. All to get people to argue with each other and disagree, and now you've got people on the left, or at least the elite left, maybe not your average Democrat, but people at the elite level of the left asking for more foreign interventionism, when 10 years ago this time it was like you had to get out of every war that existed, and the guy they elected didn't do any of that. It's all sideshow, people. Smoke and mirrors. Why is the big question. Just take it for what it is. So we know how much gun control helps people, right? And we know that it creates lower crime rates, and when you get rid of guns, people stop dying and stuff, right? Well, that may not be true. So there was a story: London's murder rate has overtaken New York amid a spike in stabbings and somehow shootings. When firearms are outlawed in London, but yet they have shootings, how's this possible? So the murder rate increases in London. There were 15 Londoners killed in February. And these stats do not include deaths from terrorist attacks or ones they can prove are terrorist attacks. A lot of these, I think everybody knows the spate of Islamic knife attacks in the UK is dramatically higher than probably that are announced. So on Saturday, a murder probe was launched after a 36-year-old woman was killed in what is believed to be the 30th incident of fatal knife crime in the capital this year. It wasn't a robbery. It was just a knife crime. Is that fatal knife crime? Is that really what they're calling it? And that was just hours after a 23-year-old died of a stabbed in the neck. UK they're quoting here in the Zero Hedge. What's scary about London is the randomness of the crime. I wonder if they're all racially motivated, possibly. I'm sure the London police won't look into that. So lots of stabbing stats, and they quote a link here to the Standard UK article in here. So we can get that over. So gun control works, right? Or not so much? I think we're running over time here, folks. We're going to wrap it up. That's the end of the links I had, and we're pushing our time. Thanks for coming out. Good point, Walter. When Trump acts like Obama, Obama has a problem with it. Yeah, he does that a lot, right? When Trump acts like Obama, conservatives will be silent. But Hillary, right, Crom? Yeah, Trump acts like Obama, and everybody's silent as well. Yeah, it's funny how this two-party system is working. Indeed. All right. It would be nice to have some bacon and coffee there, Crom. It's a good plan. But thanks for coming out, everybody. Some things to look into. Just to highlight, watch out for the weather coming through, because it's this whole area. You're all getting snow through the first week of April. Good luck. Hey, thanks for coming out on Monday. We'll see you later. Live free.